Kadam Malik Karpili Soba Aka Anna Amabe. Good evening, Malik Basintale. Welcome to the Upper West Region.
Good evening, Anola
Jemaya.
Yabeso.
To be a lamfia.
Thank you. It feels so great to be in the Upper West Region. I mean, I've always been happy. Anytime I step foot in the Upper West Region, I feel I'm home. I feel there could be no other place. I mean, I could certainly be at this particular point in time. The reception is usually highly magnified, and I must express solemn gratitude to the regional chairman and his gallant executives for the reception. I mean, they usually put me through. Isa and his deputy Eunice would always be by my side to take me around and then, I mean, keep me updated and abreast with things. My only disappointment is that anytime I go and I come back, especially in recent past, I still meet the region the same. I don't see any progress anywhere in the region. In most cases, I find it highly deteriorated. The last time I left Swēɑ by road and I was returning by road again, I really couldn't believe the road I met. And I was highly shocked that what has happened to this road. The road that should have been fully constructed by now has been abandoned and left to the weather. Anyway, you just greeted me, so we'll get into action soon.
Very well. You started the conversation by mentioning some of the challenges in the Upper West Region. But generally, there are some very critical issues or sentiment being shared across the country, which delves much more into our economy. So I want us to just have an overview of the Ghanaian economy and how the good people of the Upper West and other parts of the country are also experiencing some of the things that are happening. First, Basintale, how would you assess the current economic situations in the country?
How do you assess your pocket in the studio? That's your economy. Your pocket is your economy. The economy is not far from you. The economy is not in Accra. In fact, the economy is, excuse me to say with the greatest of respect, is not at one nice palace. The economy is with you as you sit here. It's your pocket. So dip your hand in your pocket and tell me how the economy is faring. Go to the market with 100 Ghana cedis and tell me how the economy is faring. Buy fuel, a gallon of petrol today, and tell me how the economy is faring. How much we even sell clothing that we wear, and tell me how the economy is faring. Those days with 200, 300, 400 Ghana cedis, you could organize a little naming ceremony. Because those days, even a bottle of a whole carton of mineral used to go for 6 cedis, 7 cedis, 5 cedis, a whole carton, 6 cedis. Today, with up to, if you don't have 40, 45 cedis, and in some cases 50 cedis, you cannot buy one carton, which means that even if you give birth to a child today, the least you need to have a standard naming ceremony.
Standard naming
ceremony is about 5,000 Ghana cedis. That's the least. A standard naming ceremony.
What and what would you need to?
You need to buy a sheep. Of course, a sheep today goes for about 3,000 Ghana cedis, and that takes about half of your budget. And after the sheep, you need to buy drinks. You need to rent canopy. You need to buy chairs, rent chairs. And then you need to buy clothes for the child. So the standard naming ceremony today, if you don't have 5,000, you cannot. How many people can afford 5,000 cedis? Does that mean we shouldn't give birth? The NHIS is dissolved. Today you go to the hospital, even paracetamol you cannot buy. The economy is in tatters. I don't know how you are feeling in Swēɑ, but it's really hard for us in Accra. Life is unbearable. People are struggling to feed 3 times a day. People wake up in the morning, and the least you need for breakfast in this country today is about 30 Ghana cedis. A tin of milk now is 10 cedis. A packet of Lipton goes for about 16 to 20 Ghana cedis. Bread that used to sell at 1 cedi. When I was born, we used to buy a whole loaf of bread for 50 pesos. I remember my dad would send us to buy tea bread, and you bring it in the house, 50 pesos, 5,000. You bring it and then you cut it and then you eat. Today, if you want the least bread, you don't have 5 cedis or 10 Ghana cedis. And if you look at the bread, the standard and the condition of that bread, it is more than a human being suffering from HIV virus in the 3rd stage. Highly terrible. So things are not the way they used to be again. In Accra today, a standard person who takes a salary of 2,500 or 3,000 Ghana cedis, I really, really wonder how the person, copes with life. And it's highly intriguing because things are frustrating. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I ask myself how people really survive in this country. I must be frank with you. By the grace of God, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. As for me, I can eat at least 2 times a day.
2 times a day.
Alhamdulillah.
No longer 3 times.
Alhamdulillah, I can eat 2 times a day. But I ask myself how people survive a day. I ask myself, you journalists, how much is your salary? A journalist who takes about 2,500 or 3,000 Ghana cedis behind the console, of which I can predict that we have few journalists who take that. At the end of the day, you wonder how the person actually survives with their salary. You buy a gallon of petrol at 100 Ghana cedis. Those days, a motorbike, we used to fill a motorbike tank for about 15 Ghana cedis. I remember when I bought a Mapuka, those days, somewhere around 2014. We used to fill the whole Mapuka tank with 15 cedis. It used to be 12 cedis. Then it came to 15 cedis. Today, if you don't have 70 or 80 Ghana cedis, you cannot fill your Mapuka tank. And even that, it consumes so fast. So the economy is hard, it's difficult. I don't know how you are faring and why here. But I know that things are really, really difficult. Farm inputs. You remember a bag of fertilizer used to go for 80 cedis. Today, if you don't have 7 to 8 million, you cannot buy a bag of fertilizer. Condemn. We used to sell them for 15, 18 Ghana cedis. Today, condom is about 200 Ghana cedis. A bag of corn, I remember in 2014, when I bought a bag of corn for someone for about 80 Ghana cedis. Ah, it's Fata here. Yes. How much did I buy? Ask him. A bag of corn. He's here. I remember in 2016, a bag of corn I bought for him. I mean, recent time. Actually, that a bag of corn I bought for him, how much was it? That I once bought some bag of corn for him. How much? About 90 Ghana cedis. I remember.
Very well. When you
Today,
mention
a bag of corn goes for about 700 Ghana cedis in this country, and it's so 800 and 1,000 Ghana cedis. You see, and it's so sad. And sometimes I really wonder how people, a bag of rice used to go for 70 Ghana cedis. Today, if you want to buy a bag of rice, you must spend about 4 to 5 to 6 million in this country. A gallon of oil, those days used to go for about 30 Ghana cedis. Today, a gallon of oil, if you don't have 200, 250 cedis, you cannot buy. And so, how are people really suffering? I want to know, how are you suffering, my brother? How are you bearing the crisis in this country? How are you coping? Is life good for you?
we are managing. But when we talk about the price of goods and services, it reminds everyone of inflation and also people's ability to have jobs and be able to even earn something to be able to buy what they need. In your opinion, the current government, in their management of the inflation and other challenges like unemployment and debt situations, have the government really been able to come to tax with what we talk when we mention inflation figures and the unemployment rate and others?
First of all, let me start with unemployment. Those days we used to have GN Bank across the districts in the Upper West region. This incompetent government under Baumia collapsed them, rendering many people unemployed. Where are the workers of GN Bank? UT Bank was almost setting up in Wah here, you remember? This government came and frustrated them. There's no longer UT Bank. At least, if that bank had come to force, we would have had the security man, we would have had the cleaner, we would have had tellers, we would have had bankers, we would have had drivers, all from the Upper West region. This incompetent, visionless, clueless government stampeded that. Today, unemployment is about 14%. Over 1.8 million Ghanaian youth are unemployed in this country. Those days, under President Mahama, we had unemployment of just about 7% in this country. Today, 14.7%, almost 15%. One of the poorest regions you have under NPP government today is the Upper West region, because nothing comes here. It looks as if this government has forgotten entirely about your region, maybe because it's far from the capital city, and they really do not even sleep to wake up and then remember you. Inflation, how did we get to this point? This government printed over 78 billion into the economy. After they were done printing, they shared it among their family members.
Would you say they shared it among the family members?
Cecilia Dapa alone had more than $1 million under her bed. Where did she get that from? After they were asked to account for the money they had printed, they could not account for it to Parliament. Nobody could tell. They shared it to parliamentary candidates. Felicia Tete, one parliamentary candidate, and I thought she's from the Upper West. But in Tamale, Sanarugu constituency, she said she received a share of 200,000 from COVID funds. All the monies that were printed were shared to cronies. Chop, mismanaged it, misused it, and today they are ministers, even regional deputy ministers are so rich. And so definitely there will be inflation, but the inflation will favor them. Because if things are high, you and I cannot buy, but our regional minister can buy because he has the money. The DCE can buy because he has the money, but you and I cannot buy. And there's inflation because there's a lot of the economy, the country presumes that 178 million has been printed into the economy. That 78 million is in the economy. So there must be inflation to suck back that 78 million. And unfortunately, that 78 million is not in our pockets. It's in the pockets of a few. So the inflation is suppressing us, but a few people are really enjoying. Our depreciation rate, we had a braggadocious vice president, a man who talks because talk is the only tax-free commodity in this country. spilling all sorts of things. Baumia, if you remember in 2016, doing all economics on the board, telling us how the dollar was going to dive here and he would dive and follow it, and the dollar will enter, he would nail down, and all sorts of voodoo economics. He came into office 8 years down the lane. Yesterday, shamelessly, I heard him saying he has a solution to arresting the dollar. I looked at him and I said, sir, I have 3 words for you. You are not serious. Just stop this campaign and go and sit down.
You talked of some people being able to afford certain products because of the inflation situation. It favors them. Do you have a sense that there are some group of people in this country that are very much impacted by the current challenges in the country, while others are just in it also doing what they can demographically? Do you have a feeling that there are some group of people that are severely impacted by the current challenges of the country?
I'm the leader of the group of people who have been impacted, and I can make you my vice president because you've been affected. You as a radio host, nobody in this studio is benefiting. The people who are benefiting are there. You know them, the original ministers and all of that, the DCs and all the NPP parliamentary candidates and all of that. They are enjoying, so they don't feel the hardships. If not, why will somebody mount a podium today and tell Ghanaians to still vote for him, all because things are better? How? I mean, how are things better? Even animals that we feed with grass, the prices have gone up. So how will someone even have the guts, the moral effrontery to come and tell us that? Unpaid contractors wake up in the morning, they listen, try to tune in to listen to the head of economic management team, who is now the flag bearer of the NPP, Alhaji Bawumia. And all they hear him doing is Mumfastia no mame, Mum is no, and then a child will be shouting Boabem, press the horn. Then he'll be doing. I mean, this is not a serious person. People are struggling. NAPCO trainees have been laid off. And while you have NAPCO trainees who are sitting in the house for 18 months, they've not been paid. Teachers, nursing trainees have not been posted. They are sitting in their house. They want to watch you and get a sense of hope, a vision. And all they look at,
the Minister of Education just announced that they will be taking some or observing some of the nursing trainees and teacher trainees that have completed for the past years.
These last minute gimmicks. We are so long in this country to understand what they are doing. They won't post anyone. They cannot post anyone because they failed the vacuum with their family members, their cronies. There's no minister in this country who hasn't employed not less than 10 of his family members, and I can cite examples for you. There is no minister. Look, the president himself has appointed his brother, and Asante Bedio too, who is his cousin. He's appointed him. Asante Bedio too has appointed his father. He has appointed his mother. He has appointed his brother. He has appointed his sister.
Into what portfolios?
Yes, I'm going to tell you. Don't worry. Facts are sacrosanct. It's here. Asante Bedio too, good. Asante Bedio too is the president's cousin, right? The president appointed him as his own secretary at the presidency. The president now added another appointment to him as ambassador at large. So one human being has 2 appointments. He's secretary to the president, he's ambassador at large. Asante Bedio to's mother. Asante Bedio to's mother. Just a minute. I just want to read it to you. I want to quote their names. Asante Bedio to's mother is called Mrs. Vida Asante. She's been made the head of the presidential household, which is a political appointment paid by the taxpayer. Asante Bedio to's father is called KWESI Asante. He's been made a member of the board chairman of the Ghana Hostels Board, who is being paid by the taxpayer. Asante Bedio to's sister is called Loretta Ochere. She's been made the deputy director general of SNET as at now, because the deputy has been promoted, who is Osafo Mafo's son. He's been made the director general. Asante Bedio's sister has been put there. Asante Bedio to's wife, his wife is part of them. Asante Bedio to's wife is a presidential staffer at the presidency, his own wife, paid by the taxpayer in this country. One human being. He himself has 2 appointments. His family members have all been appointed. I can go on. Now even take it for your own region. Your former deputy minister, Chinia, his contract that he was supposed to do in this country, he brought his own brother, Bazak Chinia, to go and to come and take the contract. His brother, his driver, and his cousin formed a company called Batu Awese. And all they did was to siphon contracts in the Upper West region and do lands that were meant for you, the Upper West people. Your deputy minister collected them. Fertilizer that a great ministry had given to him to share to indigents of Sisala East. He siphoned the fertilizer, and they were smuggling fertilizer on the back of donkeys. I have told them that we'll just have to let the donkeys show us where they took the fertilizer to, and we'll go and bring back all those fertilizers he smuggled out of this country, because it's important that the people of the Upper West get what they deserve. You remember that the great minister wrote a letter to his boss, asking his boss, the then minister, to tell his deputy to return all the fertilizers, 1.3 million worth of fertilizer. And you know what they did finally? When they stopped them from smuggling the fertilizer, they went and opened farm input shop at Sasala East. The fertilizer and motor kings that were supposed to be given to people, they stocked it in the shop and they are selling to their own indigents. I gave them all the documents, and like I said, when I say something, I back it with facts. So, I mean, the greed in this government is too much. The selfishness is too much. They don't care about anybody. They think they are the people at the helm of affairs and they can do whatever they want. The arrogance most especially, is too much. They see you today, a minister sees you and he looks as if he doesn't even think you are a human being. A DC sees you and you don't look like a human being to him. They have grown wings, they are pompous, they are arrogant, and look, they are filled with so much power. And I think that it is time for the NPP to leave office. And I would plead on Ghanaian people, even though they haven't given us the nod, but I beg them, when they give us power, you should help us eradicate a party like NPP. It is not good for the